My name's Stephen Petrou. I'm Professor of Physiology at the Howard Florey Institute at Melbourne University, and I've been involved in AHC research for about 2 or 3 years now. I was brought into it by a collaboration with David Goldstein and Erin Heinzen, and we undertook some biophysical analysis of some of the mutations to try and understand some of the fundamental disease mechanisms. We've been looking at a supplementary oil called Triheptanoin that a colleague of mine at the University of Queensland had shown earlier was effective in epilepsy models. This oil interacts with a fundamental biochemical process in all cells, and particularly in neurons, it's thought to increase or make changes in the neurochemistry of the system such that you induce brain inhibition. Modifying brain inhibitions is important for a lot of neurological disorders, and there's a lot of different groups looking at the application of this supplement in various neurological conditions. Some of the work I presented today was in reference to epilepsy, but I think the application to AHC could be very important. And there are clinical trials happening now for this oil, but we also want to understand preclinically in our models whether or not we can develop the best approaches for using this oil in a clinical way, and also even understanding some of the underlying mechanisms of action. What we think it does is it has a general effect on increasing inhibition in the brain, and by doing that it reduces the likelihood that a trigger for an epileptic attack will actually trigger that seizure. And that's so just by globally increasing inhibition, changing the neurochemistry of the brain in subtle ways, you're less likely to precipitate one of these events. So I guess there are 2 phases to this. You can use this clinically without understanding how it works, and that will happen certainly before we understand why it works. As I mentioned, it's a relatively safe oil to take, so there's not a lot of barriers to using this clinically. If there is efficacy, it can be used. There's a company called Ultragenics that's looking at the commercial use of this oil. Following from that, I think it would take quite some time. I'm thinking 5-10 years or so to really understand the specifics of why in the different conditions you are seeing the clinical effects. Right now, it's not commercially available. There are some sources in Germany and in China who are making it available, but it's not food grade, so it's not safe for human consumption. I think the only food grade source of that is being made available by Ultragenics, who are working with different clinical and basic research groups to make this available eventually clinically. But it can't be purchased. Ultimately, it may be purchased as a food supplement. But I'm not sure of the commercial arrangements around that, and there could be some protection against the use of that in those ways. I think it's something that should be trialled. Again, you balance the severity of the condition with the risks of a particular medication. This is relatively low risk. The disease is quite severe. I think it's worth a shot. So I am confident that it should be tried, and like most things with these sorts of approaches, I think they contribute in some way combinatorially. So if this changes the condition, the risk of having an attack by 10%, if another dietary intervention or a medication has it, they all add up and the effects accumulate, and I think that's where it's going to be important in trying to manage the disorder. I don't think it'll be a cure, but I think it'll be an aid to management.